Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, a Ben Kinney training production, where we discuss the concepts of health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. My name's Chad. I'm joined by Bob and Ben. Ben, what should the topic of today's conversation be?
Glad you ask. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason he asks is I don't always tell him. Sometimes it's a surprise as we jump into something new and valuable. What is one thing that a business needs to succeed? Anybody want to guess? Bob, first guess?
Customers.
Customers. Yes, it needs money. It needs revenue. It needs sales. It needs income, which usually requires you to do what?
Sell something?
Sell something, ladies and gentlemen. We are winning. We have baseballs coming in, and we are knocking them out of the park. You're not going to believe this. You got to sell stuff. Now, how do you sell stuff? Now, some people do it poorly, which means they got to have a lot more customers. Some people can do it with amazing skill, and they don't need as many leads. Some people do it with a lot of leads and a lot of skill, and they build really powerful, strong, and successful companies because they understand that sales and selling is a multiple step process. Today, Chad and Bob, we're going to walk through the 6 steps to sales.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Another list from Ben Kinney. Excellent.
This could also be the 6 steps to recruiting. This could also be, ladies and gentlemen, how Bob and Chad dig themselves out of a hole that they've created with their spouses. This is the 6 steps to whatever you want. Today, we are going to frame it around sales.
Yeah, but you're recruiting, you're just selling your company for somebody to come join, right? Like Chad's selling himself to his wife for her to, to keep him around, right?
I'm cheap.
I'm doing the same thing. But I mean, you're selling yourself constantly.
There's
not just
always
selling
sales.
a widget.
Everything is sales, whether it's selling somebody on a conversation, an argument, or as product.
Absolutely.
So that's what you're telling us. All right, so Ben.
It's one of the most important skill sets of any business.
And what we want people to understand as we're saying that, and as Bob was sharing that and you were sharing that, is this is not for salespeople. We're not talking just to salespeople in this conversation because you're always selling your spouse, selling your kids, selling your boss. You're always selling yourself if it's not a product that you're selling. So Ben, you told us there's 6. Let's get to number 1. What is step number 1 when it comes to selling?
So step number 1 is gauging their excitement. So as we walk through these 6 steps, I want you to pretend that you have this word written on a piece of paper.
Okay.
And down below it, you have 1 through 10 written out, 1 being lowest. They're not excited at all, right? They got drugged there by their spouse, right? And 10, they already know what they want. They're super excited. They have to have one. If they don't have one, the world's going to end. They've been camped out for 7 nights straight just to get the new iPhone XXX, right? Delivered. They're super jacked.
Got it.
So we're going to gauge, Bob Stewart, what is their excitement? Well, how do you do that? In my mind, it's about us asking questions and going through this process of figuring out, number 1, how excited is this person to take action today? Today. What is it, Chad, that made this individual come in today, meet with you today, accept your phone call? What are they individually most excited about? Not just the thing, but what? What will it actually do for them? Right? What is it about that iPhone that gets them super excited? What is it about them owning a new home that gets them so excited, or buying this new car? What is it? You have to ask questions, build a relationship to gauge, first, their excitement. The second stage, Chad, is understanding their need. So on that same piece of paper, you're going to write the word need, and in your mind, you're going to write 1 through 10, 1 being they don't need it at all, like my frickin' Peloton, which maybe I kind of need, right? But
Need is different than use, Ben.
Yeah. 1, they don't need it at all. The ice cream cone, I don't need the ice cream cone, right? 10, they absolutely need it to survive.
Oxygen.
Oxygen. Yeah, good one. Good. So how do you figure out if somebody needs something? Well, you sit back and you say, well, what's the problem that they're trying to solve? Chad, let me ask you a question. If you were to get this, what would that do for you? And you would say, well, I live in an apartment now, and I have a bunch of little kids, and when they go outside, they run in the street, and they're always almost getting ran over. So I would sit back and say, well, how important is it to Chad that his little kids, which he doesn't have, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't get run over? That's important. Once I can identify that. But if I said, Chad, is getting a new house important to you? You'd be like, it'd be nice. But if I said, Chad, just out of curiosity, is having a safe place for your children to play where you don't have to worry about them, where they're not going to be endangered, is that important to you?
Obviously much more.
Right. Is having that child in a good school district, in a good area for their education, is that important to you? Right? Is cutting your commute down by 30 minutes, is that important to you?
So this is why I didn't buy the newest iPhone, because I didn't need it. My need was really low on that 1 to 10 scale. Yet when the battery life on my current iPhone starts dying every 10 minutes, all of a sudden my need might jump up for a new product in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all coming back to asking great questions, which you covered in episode 25 at a really high level. It sounds to me like the excitement for it and the need for it, the only way you're going to find out where I rank on that 1 to 10 is asking great questions.
Yeah, here's a couple more for you.
Okay.
Does our product, our widget, our service solve that problem for that customer? Does this customer really need this problem to be solved? Let me ask another way to rephrase that, Bob, is how is this really going to change that person's life? Is there any pain that's created if this person doesn't take this action, if they don't change anything? And lastly, in step 2, how intimately do we know these answers? We won't intimately know the answers to these questions if we cannot get the customer to open up. They will not open up unless they trust you. Chad, which is number 3.
Got it.
Piece of paper, 1 through 10.
1 through 10 across the bottom.
Yeah. Does the person trust you? How would you know that? Do they believe what you're saying is relevant to them? Relevant to them. Do they believe what you're saying is true? Does it sound like sales talk? Or could you say, don't take it from me, but, here's what 5 other customers have said. Or here's what the statistics say, right? Or let's actually do the math, right? And they're like, that makes sense. They can trust that. Well, another reason that they would trust you is because you built rapport with them.
How did you build it, Ben?
We ask great questions.
All right.
That's the secret to building relationships. Now, another way to get somebody to trust you is to see if you can find an outside endorsement, an outside influence, somebody else that they know that you might know.
That just happened with you and I this weekend. Actually, somebody messaged me and asked me for something, and I just turned around and reached out to you and said, do we trust this person? And as soon as you said, yes, I trust the person, okay, that meant I could trust that person because I have that trust with you.
Yeah.
So it's getting that outside endorsement on someone when you're not sure.
We had somebody in our organization came to me 2 days ago, Ben, and there was something been posted online. Somebody basically asking like, hey, who's got a good solution for this problem? And the gal in our organization came to me and said, hey, should we post on this? And I'm like, absolutely no. I'm like, go find one of our customers and have one of our customers go address her, right? Now our customer's giving that testimonial.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can find somebody else to tell the story for you, it's even better. One of the old sales analogies or acronyms or whatever that's used in the past was FORD. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? Can you find commonality with somebody? But if I was to ask Chad and say, Chad, where do you work? And he says, I work at XYZ, and I knew one person that worked there. I say, oh, you must know John. Oh, absolutely, I love John. Me too. Automatically, there's this connection, and the person looks up and say, right, unless they hated John, right? Okay,
all right.
So third step.
Third step was trusting you. Fourth step is trusting
your company or your product.
Okay.
Right? Because they could like you, they could have a relationship with you, but they could have had a bad experience with your Ford truck in the past, or they could have had a bad experience with your Comcast wait times, right? You have to figure out 1 through 10, do they trust your company or trust your product? How do you do that? How do they describe your company? How do they describe your product or your service? What do they believe it stands for? Does your company fit within their beliefs, their values, or their statements, the words that are coming out of their mouth? How does the product or service fit their beliefs, their values, and their statements? Last two questions. How does the company fit? How does the product fit? Because people will buy things from a company because they love the company.
Yes.
Can you guys think of a product you buy from a company? Apple, right? They come out with something new, you're going to buy it. You'll be like, it's going to be pretty good.
You have them in your ear.
You got
right
earpods
now.
right now. You could get 100 different companies, but no, they're Apple.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Bob's got
them.
Jordans,
Absolutely.
Nikes, right? New Jordan comes out. He's going to buy it.
Yes,
right?
he will.
He trusts the company.
Right.
Even though he hasn't seen the new pair, he's still going to buy it. Right. That's just him.
Hey, Ben, we don't have Coke. We only have Pepsi. No, I'll just have water, right? Because we trust that company and we don't trust the other. So we've got excitement. We've got a need. We've got they trust you. We've got they trust the company. Next.
Is there emotional connection? 1 out of 10. See, people buy with emotion and justify with logic.
Ooh. Say that again.
People buy with emotion, but they justify with logic. We have to figure out, are they emotionally bought into this decision? How intimate is this emotional buy-in? Can they envision a positive change to their life because of this decision? I got a stack of P90X videos at home, right? Sitting there, because I envisioned myself doing push-ups and pull-ups like that dude, the Beachbody dude, right? Like, he was awesome, right? I had an emotional buy-in. I'm like, yeah, I can see myself looking like that.
Until you justified with logic.
Until, yes, I justified, yeah.
You know, Bob, let me ask you, as Ben's talking about this emotion, have you ever had an argument with your wife that was logical?
Wow, you're trying to get me in trouble here.
I'm not trying to get you in
I have
trouble.
logical arguments all the time. I don't feel like our arguments are logical arguments, but
Emotion always, okay.
yeah, they're emotional.
Emotion always comes in from one of the two parties,
Yeah.
which is what Ben's talking about here, that we buy with emotion, and that's going to
asshole.
happen to us in our discussions at home as
luckily
well.
I can't get my wife to listen to our podcast anyway, so that's
I freaking crack it up. It's like Bob's like trying to not get in trouble on this episode.
Bob, you and I both know it. There is no such thing as a logical argument around the house. There's always emotion.
yeah, they're emotional for sure.
Can we see them visualizing this change? You ever seen somebody walk into a house that they're going to buy, or get into a car that they could see themselves with, or holding something or trying something else, and you could see them visualizing their life changing? Yeah. Figuring out, do they have an emotional connection to this decision, to this service, to this product? You got to check that out. Lastly, is this a logical decision?
So logic does finally play a part after emotion. You're saying number 6 is now we get logical.
Yeah, on a scale 1 through 10, is this a logical decision? Like, I could see myself driving a really fast car, right? That would be really cool. But at the end of the day, if it's not logically in my budget, or not logically a sacrifice that I would take, I could be totally trust you. I could think it's the greatest product in the world. I could be emotionally thinking about driving up the beach, you know, with my Ferrari or whatever that thing might be.
You're still going back to your truck, though.
Instead of my Ford 150, right?
Yeah.
And I could be super jacked about it. But logically,
No, it wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't have anywhere to put your fish or your fishing poles or your camping gear or all that stuff, right? Like,
yeah, that doesn't work for me. Logically, you don't need a convertible in Seattle,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
a
always
minute.
raining.
I'm driving one.
So how do you ask the questions of being logical? See, we have to understand that a logical decision is done by helping people identify, is this a realistic thing for them today? Can they afford to make this decision? What's the next logical move, decision, purchase, role? And logically, are all the decision makers actually present? If you can go through each one of those tactics that we just wrote out, and you start seeing that you have 7, 8s, 9s, 10s across the board, you actually have a recruit, you have a sale, you have a transaction. If you don't, most likely they aren't even the right customer for you, or you haven't earned the right to sell them that product or service, or you haven't earned the right to be in business with them. The last step is just understanding what's our closing probability. And I ask that in my head when I'm having this conversation, right? Is there a pain that I can solve for this person? Would this decision solve their pain? What would happen if this person didn't take action? They didn't accept this opportunity or didn't buy this thing, right? Is there alternative products, services, companies, or jobs for them? I have to understand that. This is an important step, and I do it 1 through 10 as well. And the reason is it allows me to know, should I waste time on this person or not? I might look at this person and say, this person's awesome, I love them, but they're not a buyer. And there is buyers walking around my company today, and I need to focus on that person, right? You can't spend an hour with somebody that isn't going to transact when you only have an hour to try to pay bills or get things going. As you walk through the steps of selling, gauging their excitement, gauging their need, seeing if they trust you, if they trust your company, your product, your service, seeing is there an emotional need or an emotional attachment, and see if there's a logical reason for them to move forward, you can finally end up at the closing if you take the time to understand the probability of all of these things that we discussed. I hope that this quick episode was an easy way for you to dive into how do I improve my sales, my recruiting, my negotiation, or in Bob's situation, his debates and decisions, his fights with his wife, right? Hope you enjoy this episode. See you next time.
I might not see you guys next time. I don't know.
Well, Bob, we hope to see you on the next episode, and we hope to see all of you out there in the audience back with us on our next episode. Make sure that you have subscribed to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Share this with somebody. Here's the easy way to share the podcast. Just have them text the word podcast to the phone number 59559. Once again, just have them text the word podcast to the number 59559, and they'll get a link right to the podcast so they can check this episode out. We hope that you remember to rate us. We hope you remember to review, because we love hearing from you. We also hope you'll join our Facebook group, Win, Make, Give, where the conversation always continues after the episodes are done. Until our next episode, remember, wash your hands, and as always, do good.